Hey everyone, it's Midnight Spectre, and today I'm going to be talking about a little project I've been undertaking, and that's going off-grid. So I'm sure everyone has seen those shows on Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, or have seen TikToks about going off-grid or living off-grid. I'm sure a lot of people say they can never do that or never want to do that, but honestly, I kind of see this as sort of something I could really like to do. I believe, although this is not the solution to the housing crisis in America, I believe that this is something that the average person could do if they're not afraid to put in a little bit of sweat equity. For a long time, I've been disillusioned just by the simple cost of living to have a place in America. Renting, in my option, is kind of a trap. I had a friend who was paying $1,000 a month to live in an apartment that had roaches in it. Then there's friends who have taken on massive mortgages to live in a house, and not only do they have to pay that, they have to pay for whatever breaks, groceries, and other homeowner expenses. While this is a better endeavor, it's not nearly as big of a trap as renting, I still find it doesn't sit well with me. I know that inflation will always be a thing, and stuff is generally going to cost more. The issue is that wages aren't increasing to meet those goals. To me, the point of life isn't to slave away so you can have a roof over your head and some food to put in your stomach. People should be able to enjoy themselves as well, with whatever hobby that makes their lives more fulfilling or richer for them. I understand that we have to work, and honestly, working isn't so bad as long as you have a job where the people are nice to you and work is something that you're comfortable with doing. However, I do not think that work should be your life. I myself would like to get to a point where I'm not constantly worrying about having to get a paycheck or the economy going sideways. And this kind of goes back to last week's video where I talked about the pursuit of vanity. I'm going off grid to free myself of these things. I'm not afraid to get a little dirty, and perhaps spend the money up front to have something stable and permanent that I could have for years and years. For example, I bought myself a truck from the 80s. Something dead simple I could open up a $100 tool set from your favorite hardware store and fix most issues on it. I became quite handy with automobiles, and eventually I realized that I might have a little bit more knowledge than mechanics working in shops right now, because anyone can replace a part or a sensor, but not many of those people, even the master techs, have the ability to truly diagnose something. Forget tuning a carburetor or setting timing, that's a lost art. I'm honestly glad that a lot of people wouldn't touch an old car like mine, just because it forced me to sit down and actually learn about this stuff. I'm also tired of having the feeling that everything is temporary. Ever since I was young, my parents made me feel like everything was temporary. I mean, they were probably trying to get me ready for the real world, as they put it, but come on, I'm 8 years old. I'm not your therapist, and I don't need to be weighed down with these adult problems right now. Just let me play some Wind Waker on GameCube and memorize the multiplication table. I never understood that about my grandparents and my parents. I mean, perhaps it would have helped a neurotypical child and strengthened them for the real world, but for a kid with, at the time, undiagnosed autism, anxiety, and depression, was that really the right move? Of course, even if it was diagnosed, they probably would have just blamed the television or blamed me for the way I am because they're old school like that. Funny story about the real world that my grandparents and parents would talk about. So I had a stretch in school where I was kind of just stopped trying because if I got an A on something, my parents would say, well, why isn't this an A+? You know, that sort of deal. Of course, am a little shit and always will be, and so I said, what does it matter? This isn't the real world anyway. And they shut up about the real world after that. So, honestly, this all culminated to a desire to just live off-grid. When I was young, I yearned for the days of the Wild West where I could hop on a horse with a revolver, some sundries, and some gold and find a place to settle down and build a cabin or something like that, and just live simply. I must preface this by knowing that I know that anxiety and depression are chemical imbalances in the brain, but I think that a lot of my anxiety just stems from where I am and how I'm living now. I believe that when I finally do settle down on my plot of land in Tennessee, I'll be a lot better off. I'll probably still need medication to manage my disorders, but I think I'll end up feeling a lot better. However, I don't have a lot of money, and even though my job does pay well, I'm sure I'm making more than a few of my friends I still keep in contact with, but I don't make the big bucks like some of these off-grid YouTubers have. So even though I have a third of an acre to play with, I'm honestly thinking about purchasing the lot next to me so at least have half an acre to play around with. I don't think I truly need half an acre, I think it would just be something nice to have. But honestly, I don't want to have a huge shop or a bunch of animals because if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think I could handle an animal just dying, nor could I kill an animal for food because I don't want to go to the grocery store. However, I understand that if things do come to a point where I would have to hunt and fish, I could definitely do that as well. So my style of going off-grid isn't truly off-grid because I would still work my job because it is a remote job, but I would eventually start putting money in stocks and maybe a few gambles on options and crypto, and eventually get myself to a point where I could put that money into dividend stocks and live off my dividends. I just wish there were more off-grid YouTubers in my position that I could watch and see how they do things, because a lot of the people that I see end up building these McMansions or elaborate cabins in the woods, and I'm just going down to my plot of land in a nice RV or camper and buy a couple shipping containers, or maybe if I come into some money buying one of those cabin kits. I really like the Arch cabin kit I saw online, or the A-frame cabin kit, although I know I need some help with putting that together. There's even companies now that are selling sheds that are big enough to set up a tiny home in. Sorry for this long video, it's more of a stream of consciousness, but that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So I hope everyone enjoyed today's video, and I hope to hear about your ideas and dreams for the future. See you next week, everyone!